I don't know who this message is for, but it's something I've been feeling very, very, very strongly for myself as well for like the past couple of weeks. So I don't know who needs to hear it, but I hope it reaches that person or those people. And to put it in the simplest terms, God is telling you to move. You've been feeling it. It's been bothering you. You've been questioning it, and you're also unsure about it. God is telling you to move, and it's time for you to do that. It is time to move, girl. I don't know what that looks like for you, and I don't know in which way He's telling you to move. Like, I don't know. I will speak about the different ways that God could be telling you to move, or the different options you may have, but it's plain as day, and you're questioning it. And you questioning it is you questioning God as well. Now, some of you don't want to hear this. Some of you don't want that confirmation. And it's the only reason why you haven't moved yet, because you haven't heard what you wanted to hear. God is never going to tell you what you want to hear, babe. So let it go. Let it go. Hang it up. He's never going to tell you what you want to hear. He's going to always tell you exactly what you need to hear when you need to hear it. So for those of you like me that have been searching for a sign or confirmation or clarity or whatever it is that you're missing, this one's for you. God is telling you to move, and it's time for you to do it, like yesterday. I'm going to go a bit more in depth about this topic and how to know when God is telling you to do something. But before I do that, I don't want to be rude. Let me introduce myself.
Act up, nothing can harm me. Yelling from the roof, I touch, put up a garden. Count to 10, lion's den, speaking with the higher pen. Can't be touched by fire.
Hi, babes. Welcome back to the LVME Unbroken podcast. This is where we swallow the big pills, not the little ones. I am your host, Mercedes, and I am here to bring you some of the harshest truths that you never want to hear in life, but you need to hear them because some of you have some friends in your circle that don't tell you. Some of you have yes men around you that don't tell you. So I think maybe it'll help if it comes from a stranger. And that's why I'm here. I am currently being told to move. God is telling me to move. This is probably one of the most valuable lessons that I've learned this year. And it's that God is not a confusing God. He's not. He's plain. Everything he says is very clear. It's just you making it confusing. It's you choosing what to listen to and when to listen. It's us. It's not God. God is very clear. So I knew that when this feeling came, I could be very confident that it's coming from God. And I've never felt something so strongly. He's never given me so many signs. Like, it's been back to back to back. And I'm not going to go too much in depth about what it is that God is telling me to do, because that's between me and God. Mind your business. Y'all, I've been seeing so many signs over the past couple of weeks. It's been people coming to speak to me in person. It's coming from some of the most random people. I'm having conversations with people that I don't typically have conversations with. I am seeing things. I'm getting emails, and it's all surrounding the same thing. And I'm like, there is no way. And the only thing about this particular thing that God is telling me to do, I haven't seen it in a dream yet. But that doesn't mean that he's not telling me. He either says it in a dream or he'll say it in another way. And I think he's telling me to do this one thing in a different way. And he may be doing the same to you. But girl, move. Now, there are different ways that God could be telling you to move. Some of y'all might take this a little too literal. So make sure you are taking this, aligning it with what you have going on in your life and who you are. It don't necessarily have to be the same exact experience as me. It's not going to be, because we all have different experiences, but just make sure you align it well with who you are. Now, different ways that God may be telling you to move is by switching careers. Switching careers is a big one. And not only could it be like switching careers, he could also just be telling you to leave the job that you're at and go to another job and continue in that same career. But one thing about it, he's always going to want you to elevate. He's never going to tell you to take a step down. He's never going to tell you to demote yourself. He's always going to tell you to elevate. So if you are being told to do something, or you feel like you're being told to do something and you're questioning it, ask yourself, is it something that's going to help me grow? Is it something that's going to take me to the next level or elevate? Is it something that's higher than what I'm doing right now? And if that's the case, I would take that as a very clear sign that he is telling you to go to another job or switch your careers and do more. He's never going to tell you to do less. He always wants more from us. He knows that we're capable of it. That's one way that God could be telling you to move. Now, another way, y'all, and I can relate to this one personally as well, but another way he could be telling you to move is by relocating. Change where you live. Now, I don't know if he's telling you to go to a different city, or he's telling you to jump to a whole nother state, or he's telling you to jump to a whole nother country. I don't know. You will know though. But sometimes God will give us signs to leave. And I think that stirs from us becoming, if you feel like you are too complacent where you are, too comfortable where you are, or things are just stagnant where you are currently living, maybe it's time for you to go. Maybe you need a change of scenery. You need a new environment. You need to be around different things than what you're used to seeing every day. You need something new, and maybe God has something for you, but you can't get to that thing until you get out of where you are, because where you are may be holding you back. Where you are may be strangling you, and you're going to know. I've been through this, y'all. I have been through this, so I know I can speak on it. I kind of just know those different feelings are different things that go through your mind when you're being told to relocate somewhere. Another way that God may be telling you to move is by ending some relationships or starting some relationships or friendships. Now, this can be like a lover or just friend, family member. It doesn't matter. Any relationships you have with people, he could be telling you to either cut some people off, or he could be telling you to give that person a chance. And I want to say that I don't think we talk enough about God telling us to start a relationship. Now, there's some of you out here that might be a little cold-hearted, like you've been through some things. You maybe come from a difficult background. Maybe you've been around toxicity your whole entire life. So you've probably kind of like shut people off. Maybe you've been kind of cold to the world. And there's probably this person that is reaching out to you, and you're kind of giving him the cold shoulder, like, but you can't seem to find anything wrong with the person. And for some reason, that person is super persistent when it comes to you. He or she is super persistent with, just keeping in contact with you and trying to, start something with you, and you are just giving them the cold shoulder. Listen, it might be time for you to give that person a chance. Always pray about whatever decision you make, and God will easily guide you. But it may be time, girl. Or he could be telling you the opposite. He could be telling you, let them go. I've made an entire video about letting them go. So go refer to that if you want something in depth, signs and things as such. If you need some more clarity around that subject, but God could be telling you to let someone go. And it could be a lover. It could be your family member. It could be a friend, but you've been feeling it for a long time. I can also relate to this one. I'm sure a lot of us can. And the signs are very, very, very clear, and they're all listed in that video. So if you want to tap into it, then you should. But I think those are the three main areas in which God usually would tell us to move. When it comes to career as well, I wanted to add that he could be also telling you there's a lot of needs out here for entrepreneurs. I think that's always going to be a thing. It's never going to go away. So if you've been battling with quitting your 9-to-5, talk to God about it. He might tell you something. You know what I mean? He might be telling you, yeah, let it go. When you do these things, y'all, you got to move with purpose, but have faith in it. Don't be scared. It is scary. It's easier said than done. So I can say don't be scared, and it's much easier said than done. But if you have that faith, baby, that faith is going to do something. That faith is probably the number one reason why I am where I am today. That faith will carry you into rooms that you never even thought of for yourself. So don't worry so much. Don't put so much time into worrying and stressing when you know it's time for you to make that move. Just do it. And everything else will fall in place. Everything else will just start coming together like a puzzle. You'll just start seeing the picture slowly, and then it starts progressing a bit. And you're like, oh my God, this is what it was, or this is what it is. I knew it, So have faith when you're making these moves, and always pray about it beforehand. But God makes no mistakes. God makes no mistakes. He's not going to tell you to do something that you don't need to do. He's always going to give you the tools that you need to get better and better and better over time. So trust him. Trust him. Okay, so I wanted to talk about how do we know when God is telling us to move? Like, what are ways that he tells us or show us that it's time to move? And one of the ways he uses is by making us uncomfortable. So you can use discomfort as a sign or a signal. And this just looks like you are restless. You're constantly thinking about it. You feel like you're stagnant. So that makes you feel like you're not doing enough. He uses those little subtle things to make you, he uses them to nudge you and say, hey, it's time for something new. It's time for something new. You're constantly thinking about what more you can do at nighttime. Maybe when you're trying to sleep and you're just up, you're always thinking about how far you are and how far you have to go. And maybe you just feel stuck. I think that God uses that as a way to tell us, like, yeah, it's time. Another way that I feel like he tells us through prayer. God will use your consistent prayer time with him to just let you know. Make yourself get into a state of constant prayer. Pray when you're happy, pray when you're worried, pray just throughout the day. It's almost like just having a typical conversation with your friend all day long. Constantly pray. I do believe that he uses that time to just tell you something. When I'm very worried or stressed, I have this thing where I'll shut myself away and I'll just go into prayer and worship. And I will literally sit in that thing. Like, I'll be in my room or in my office or in a bathroom with the door closed, listening to worship music, worshiping God, and just praying and praying and praying and praying like non-stop. And every time I do that, at the end of that prayer, after I've said everything that's been on my mind, after I've released everything, I always walk out of that prayer with the most clarity I've ever seen in my life. Like, I can't even explain how it worked. I really cannot explain how that works. But every time that happens to me, every time I go into that deep prayer with God, I have the most clarity. I'm so motivated. I feel so encouraged. I will go straight and open my laptop and breathe. I'm like, whew, I got it. That's what it is. I don't know how it works or how God does it. I don't know how God does a lot of things. He's so amazing. But that's something that I use as a tactic to just stay in communication with God, stay in relationship with God, and know that the moves that I make are according to his will, are things that he wants and need me to do. So just try that. Try going into beast prayer mode and see if that works for you. Another way God will tell you to move, or he'll confirm that it's time for you to move, is through constant signs and repetition. I just explained this at the beginning of the video. I keep seeing the same signs over and over and over, and they're coming from so many different directions. Now that is a no-brainer. That's a dead giveaway. Follow the signs. You're not seeing these things at random. I don't believe in coincidences so much. You know what I mean? You see these things for a reason. You're seeing it on purpose, and you're supposed to do something about it. Take heed and move. It's not a mistake. It's not a coincidence. I think that's one of the clearest things that God will use to show us. And you know what? We got a patient God, because he will show you over and over and over and over and over again until you can't even afford to ignore it. So always take signs and repetition as a sign from God and do something about it. And one last way, well, it's not a last way, but I'm sure he uses many other ways to speak to us. But the last one on my list is by closing and opening certain doors that you didn't even expect to like close or open. Some doors will close abruptly and some doors will open abruptly. It always happens when you least expect it to. And that's also not a coincidence. I don't take doors closing or doors opening as lost opportunities or weird opportunities for those doors that are opening. I simply take them as a sign. I look at those as navigation. When God closes a door, it might feel like rejection. It almost always feel like rejection, but it's usually protection. It's usually redirection. It's never really rejection. You can't be rejected from what God already has for you. So look at those things as redirection, protection, And that in itself will give you the clearest navigation on where to go next. I lastly want to talk about how important it is to obey God when it comes to these things. And it can be almost life-threatening when you don't listen. It can in certain situations. And when you don't listen to God, it could be when you're super angry about something and you want to do something just so monstrous. And you hear that little voice telling you, please don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And then you sit there and you don't listen to it. You don't listen to the voice. You listen to your flesh and you do it. And now you're facing something life-threatening. It can be very detrimental if you're not obedient in this time. One thing you must understand is that God's timing is much, much, much greater than your comfort. Now, obeying often comes at a cost. And I get it. It's never easy. It can come at a financial cost. It can come at an emotional cost. It can come at a social cost. It doesn't even matter. It's almost always going to come at a cost, and that's okay. But delayed obedience is still disobedience. So you would much rather just pay the cost to make that move that God is telling you to make in that season. Another thing you must understand that there's loneliness. You may encounter loneliness during the move. That's normal. It's not always the best feeling, but it's completely normal. There are times when you will feel isolated. You'll feel isolated if you're around people that don't understand what you have going on in life or what your calling is. You're going to always feel isolated around those people. You can barely even relate to them. But God's plan isn't for everyone to understand. It's simply for you to follow. Everybody don't understand it, and they're not supposed to. Not when it comes to your life, but you need to understand how important it is for you to follow his plan, regardless of the circumstances. Most important, it's so life-changing when you choose to put your faith over your fear. Your fear will always tempt you to either stay exactly where you are or make small moves. It will always tempt you to do that. But your faith will always demand you to trust what you cannot see. And that's why it's so important for you to put that faith over your fear. When you're getting ready to make your next move, there's a few things that you should consider. There's a few steps that you should absolutely follow. And I think this will help make that next move much easier and smoother for you. One of them being, as I mentioned earlier, always seek clarity in prayer. You will get it. I don't care how pointless you think it is. Always seek God's clarity in prayer. Make sure that whatever you're doing, make sure that it's aligning with God. Make sure it aligns with God's principles. And we all know what those are. If it doesn't align, then 10 times out of 10, you're not supposed to be doing it. It's always helpful to talk to like mentors and counselors, or maybe a therapist or somebody on the spiritual side, a leader on the spiritual side. It's always important to, it's always super helpful to talk to those people because they tend to be a bit more wise, and they have a bit more information. Some of them may be more experienced. So it's always great to seek that type of counseling. And last but not least, it's so important for you to act ASAP, like instantly. As soon as you receive that confirmation, girl, it's time. I'm trying to tell you, it's time. I need to name this video "It's Time," because it really is. It's time. You're being told the same thing over and over and over again. You're seeing the same signs over and over and over again. You're sitting there and you're looking for another sign. Well, please take this as another one in your last one before you make that move. Please do it. I don't know what it is. I don't know what God is calling you to do. I don't know who God is calling you to be, but it's time. I really hope this video helped someone. But until next time, I'll talk to you guys very, very, very soon. Take care.
He said that he will never change, and he never changed.